The difference between people who try to be successful and the ones who actually are is just this one thing. And it's not strategy, it's not money, it's not their ideas. It's speed. As a multi-million-dollar business owner, I've worked with so many successful people, and speed is the one thing that separates winners from losers. So if you want to learn how to move faster than anyone else and become truly successful and have the dream life that you've always wanted, keep watching. Let's get started with number one. You have to follow the cycle of momentum. This is a cycle of momentum. First, decide fast. Second, execute immediately. Third, review data quickly. So let's dive into number one. Decide fast. Information is important, but oftentimes I find that people get stuck in information overload. They want more and more and more and more information. And with tools like ChatGPT, it can feel like you will never get to the bottom of all of the information that you need in order to make a decision. So get comfortable making a decision despite not knowing. One of the things I recently did on my ChatGPT account is I told it to stop giving me additional context. If I have a question, give me the exact answer, because I was wasting all of this time going through and saying yes to whatever their next idea was for me to go to the next level of this concept. Well, instead of making better decisions and faster decisions, I started having paralysis by analysis. So get the information in order to make a decision as quickly as possible, maybe not having all the data, but making a decision anyway. When it comes to making a decision, you have to then move as quickly as possible into the second step, which is execute quickly. If you just make a whole bunch of decisions, but you never tell anybody about the decisions, you never apply pressure in order to make sure those decisions are moving forward, nothing's going to happen. So you make the decision and then you execute as quickly as possible. And I'm not saying that you execute next month, next week, I'm saying execute today. How do you prioritize moving the most important decisions forward so that you can start to make progress? And this is why the third step is so wonderful, because it's okay to make a bad decision if you are reviewing the data. It would be completely irresponsible if I was sitting here saying, just make decisions, execute quickly, create a mess, and live with it. But that's not what I'm saying. I do want you to make a decision. I do want you to execute quickly, but then look at data as quickly as possible after the decision is made so that you can know, was this a good decision? And should I do more of this? Or was this a bad decision? Do I need to redirect and then go in a different direction? I honestly think this is one of my superpowers. I could care less if I'm right. I will instantly remove my feelings from a decision, because if the data tells me that one decision is the better decision and I might have thought it was going to be a different one, I don't care any longer. We're going all in on the one that worked. You can only get this confidence if you were looking at data as soon as you implement and execute your decisions. Think about TikTok creators who blow up on social media. They don't wait to be perfect. They start by posting daily and adjusting based off what works. These are the same principles to follow in business. Just remember that you should be iterating relentlessly and making micro adjustments while you're moving forward. Next is number two. Imperfection is the new perfect. I see creators online all the time posting unpolished content, and it still blows up and goes viral. And here's why that works. People don't want super polished. They don't want super buttoned up in the final version any longer. They want to see what's real. People want to see you being messy, figuring things out in real time, and all the while they are along for the ride. And when you do this, two things happen. One, you move faster than people who are still obsessing over every single detail. And two, your audience becomes invested in your process since they are watching you build and they're able to give you feedback along the way. I find that it's easier online to hit publish when something is imperfect versus having that mentality in the workplace. Because if you know that you aren't prepared for something, if you know that you don't have experience in doing something, it actually can reduce people's confidence if you're telling them, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I remember my very first leadership job when I had my team who was reporting to me, and they were all older than I was, they had more experience than I was, and most of them were men. They were not taking little 22-year-old Natalie very seriously. If I would have told them in that moment that I didn't know what I was doing, it would have reduced my credibility. And I will never forget when I walked into my first set of one-on-ones, and instead of having a structure, holding them accountable, doing all the things I needed to do, I just sat there and kind of shot the shit with them, asked them how their week was going, and got to know their family. And we didn't talk about anything related to their roles or the business. Now, since then, I have done thousands of one-on-ones, and I've taken something that I was imperfect at and became better and better and better to where now I'm very confident in the process that I use for one-on-ones. So if you want my one-on-one process, find me on Instagram at Natalie Dawson and send me a DM saying one-on-one. The moral of that story is if I didn't show up imperfectly back then, I wouldn't have a polished process today. So it's okay to have things not be perfect. But if you can learn from people who are 2 steps ahead, it will take your lack of perfectionism and give you an edge so that you gain experience while not being a complete mess. Number 3 is next. The market doesn't wait. The market moves so fast. So if you take 3 months to decide while the people you are competing with are deciding today, you're already behind. It's a little funny to me that I'm doing a video about speed because if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I would have thought I was fast at everything until I was around people who did things quickly and was around people who were incredibly successful. And what I learned from being around people who are incredibly successful, they do not wait for anything. And as soon as they have an idea, they execute on it in that moment. One of my favorite times with my business partner, Grant Cardone, we were thinking about launching this new initiative and we had this whole talk about it over dinner. It was probably an hour-and-a-half long discussion. And at the end of the discussion, he said, "Great, send me a link by tomorrow morning so I can start to promote it." And I was like, "Send you a link by tomorrow morning so you can promote it? It's 8:30 at night. How am I supposed to send you the link? Our team has to build the page. We have to set everything up. What are you talking about? Send you a link by tomorrow morning." And he's like, "Okay, that's fine." And I didn't think anything of it that night. I went to bed and woke up the next morning and saw he had sent it to his team who had created a full-blown page, already had emails, and this was before ChatGPT existed. He had just bypassed my inability to move quickly because he had a team that could move faster than I could, even though it was supposed to be my initiative. And what this taught me is how do I create a team and create a process that will allow an idea to move fast? Because if you believe in the idea, it has to move fast. That's how you gain momentum, is the ability to say, I want to do this thing. How quickly can I move it into the physical universe? It's no longer an idea when there's a landing page. And when he promoted it the next morning, we found that there were thousands of people who were interested in this idea. So what did that do? It added more momentum into this process. We were more excited about this idea. The speed changed everything. And today it is one of our most profitable programs that we've ever launched, all because we moved quickly. So what's the lesson here? Speed to market beats perfection. Launching a minimal viable product, aka a link to a landing page, creates momentum and user investment, making it nearly impossible for slower, perfect competitors to catch up to what you're doing. One of my favorite quotes from Sean Parker, the co-founder of Napster, is move fast and break things. Unless you're breaking stuff, you're not moving fast enough. Remember that clarity comes from action. You will never just think of the perfect plan. You will discover it while you're already moving. Lastly, number 4, the today rule. What I like to do to make sure I am always following this rule is to ask myself these 2 questions daily. What can I launch or test today instead of next week? And the second question is, what is the smallest step I can take to get data now? Every day counts. When you think about where you want to go and what your targets are, you don't get multiple days to take off where you're just assuming somebody else is making progress on your goals. So when you think about what you're doing today, I like to use this hack. I have a list of all of my core priorities, and I start every morning identifying what I can do that day to move the ball forward, even if the ball isn't in my hand. Now, I'm not much of a sports analogy fan because I don't know much about sports. I think of it like a football game. Every down counts. You have to get closer and closer and closer, even if it's only 3 yards. You might think, oh, 3 yards doesn't really matter when there's 100 yards that this ball has to go. The 3 yards matter. And every day when you wake up, if you are not clear on what you have to do in order to move that project, move that initiative forward, you're going to get lost. And instead of making fast decisions, you're going to be slowed down by the person that you think has the ball, when really you need to take the freaking ball over and start making moves down the field. So for me, this looks like in every single meeting, I am clear on who is supposed to do what after the meeting. If the meeting doesn't end where there are clear decision points that have to be executed upon, there are clear notes where people have action items and everybody knows what the next steps are, it was a failed meeting. I just wasted my time. The fastest way to waste your time is to lose control of what you can do today. So going back to the today rule, what can you do today to make forward movement. Today is a day that you have to make forward movement because you don't have the luxury of waiting until tomorrow. If you are not making progress across the most important things of your life, schedule a time for yourself every single morning to review the handful of the core priorities and then ask yourself, what am I doing to move this forward today? Do you have to follow up with somebody? Do you yourself have to take action? Do you need to make an outbound phone call? Like, what is it that you can do today to make it move forward? Remember that perfectionism is just procrastination with better branding. So today, take one action towards something that you've been putting off just because it wasn't perfect. And tell me in the comments exactly what you did. Remember that the faster you move, the faster you win. If you love this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for videos like this every single week and check out my next video here.